now sounds like a good time to begin things. Well, it's a lovely big turnout. Fantastic to see you all. I'm just going to introduce Jayagupta very briefly. I know some of you know Jayagupta extremely well, but some of you won't. I think Jayagupta first arrived at a Sheffield centre 30 plus years ago, something like that. And legend has it that Jayagupta has been meditating every day for at least 30 years, something like that, yes? 35. Okay. So there you go. There you go. It can be done. We all do it. We'll all do it. 20 years ago, Jayagupta became ordained, and he's been one of many, but one of the key people, I think, who's really brought raised the game in meditation in this sangha in all sorts of ways. But a key way is that he leads 2 Mitra meditation retreats a year. One's a weekend, the other's a week long, and they're highly, highly recommended. But to go on them, as you may have gathered, you have to be a Mitra. But yeah, and also Jayagupta, I think it's fair to say, is a great friend to many people in the Sangha. I mean, since he's retired, I mean, it's almost a full-time job meeting with people, you know, helping them in their meditation, supporting them in all sorts of ways. I mean, he's quite an extraordinary man, and I'm very, very delighted to welcome him here, and really looking forward to the session that you're going to be leading. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vimadasa. It's sort of quite humbling to hear those things, and I'll try not to disappoint. What a lovely audience, actually, of very familiar faces, friends, and people who I've yet to meet. You know, that's what we say about the second stage in the Metabhavana, people who I've yet to meet. So it's lovely. Lovely to be standing here. And I'm a little bit of a stranger to Sangha Night, but that holds some advantages because I'm going to completely mess with your expectations of what a Tuesday night session should look like. So for those of you who need advanced warning, I'm going to be talking for 20 minutes, maybe. I might dry up earlier, but I'm going to be talking for 20 minutes. And then I'm going to be leading you through a reflection practice, a meditation practice that may not be familiar to you, but has got a lot going for it. And I'll aim to conclude that at about 8:30, so then you'll be back on plan if you like that, and you can have your usual tea break, and then after the tea break, I'll lead a standard meditation. In other words, I'll ring the bells, so you know where you are, or you might know where you are, depending on whether you've stayed with the bells or not. So that's the structure. So it's me sort of ranting on for about 20 minutes, some meditation, tea break, and some more meditation. So that's a real treat. You get 2 meditations tonight. The loss is that you don't get a group, but there you go. Yeah. So a little bit of background. All my life that I can remember, I've just loved the whole thing of writing, of writing stories, of keeping journals, of writing lofty, important professional papers, writing books, writing nonsense, keeping my own personal blog, blah, blah, blah. And even in my sort of swan song was to write a book about writing. And if that isn't gazing up your proverbial, I don't know what is, but that was great fun. That was my last professional piece of writing. I don't like mentioning retirement because it makes you feel absolutely ancient. Vimladas has already done it. So I just have to fess up and face it. I still write. And my writing practice has gone in some really interesting directions. So I started writing fiction. I've never really written fiction before, short stories and that sort of stuff, with the aid of my good friend and accomplished Shubha singer. And so I've been really experimenting with how to write absolutely outrageous short stories. He's really encouraged me to let go. So that's great. And then in between times, because inspiration is one of those peculiar things that doesn't always land on the page, in between times, I've been doing what some people call life writing, which is not like life drawing, you keep your clothes on, but you sort of write about your life. And that's really taken off. Yeah, I'm about 25 at the moment, so that's a good sort of counterpoint to feeling old and decrepit and retired. I'm reliving my mid-20s at the moment. Anyway, I was talking to Bodhi Naga a couple of months ago about my writing practice, and he sort of said, well, have you ever written anything, that sort of like connects with the Dharma, Well, in a way it all does, but in a way none of it does. And so I sort of said, no, I don't really want to go there. I sort of tend to edit it out of my short stories, And then actually I remembered that was a slight untruth, that I had a couple of attempts at doing that. And they were born out of a wish to try and connect my own lived experience, which is very much like yours in the whatever century we're in, the 21st century, in this country and so on, which is like a long way away from the historic Buddha. How do we make that leap? And we can do it imaginatively, and we can do it quite effectively. We can read the stories and try and conjure things up. But I had an ambition to try and connect it, at least for myself, in more intimate ways. That I've done that with a couple of suttas from the Pali Canon, and one of which I'm going to look at tonight. So there are attempts to connect my life to the Dharma and to the Buddha's time. Might not work for you, of course. So what I'm going to subject you to, as much as I like standing here just improvising and talking to you as if you're my friends, which most of you are, and just sort of giving little anecdotes and things like that, I'm actually going to read you a story that I've written, and if you like, and if it's possible technically, I can also make that available if you'd like to revisit. Good evening, stranger. Good to see you. So that's what I'm going to do. So contrary to a rumor that seems to be going around, I'm not going to dress up for the part, but this is the story of Bahia, and if you already know it, you'll get the joke. If you don't know it, then you'll get the joke afterwards. Sort of delayed gratification on that front. So this starts off with a couple of pages of complete self-indulgence in which you'll get to learn a little bit about me, and I'll try not to be embarrassed. So the story is called Looking for Bahia, and here it begins. London in the early 70s was the place for spirituality and self-discovery, and there was plenty on offer. I went to Douglas Harding's workshops on living without a head. I went to talks. I read a lot of books, but I never met any Buddhists. I remember on one occasion My girlfriend came with me to the Palace of Peace, a converted cinema in East Dulwich. We got the bus. She wore a long cheesecloth skirt fringed with tiny silver bells, and we took the darshan of the teenage guru, who sat stock still on a straight-backed chair in a neat suit and tie. He was just radiating universal love. So cool. And then we waited and waited and waited, uncomfortable in the damp old cinema seats for a good half hour, watching his followers, premies they were called, all looking important, also wearing suits, fussing around him. The guru just sat still all the way through, looking serene. And then my girlfriend leant over to me and whispered, "He hasn't moved an inch. Look, he's not even breathing. It's just a wax model." And she was right. So all told, we preferred the Hare Krishnas. There was plenty of movement, always a heady, joyful atmosphere, and shed loads of sweet-smelling incense to fill the air. Wearing robes was far more radical. The chanting was hypnotic and ecstatic, and the food was blessed, prasad. And what's more, it was free. My girlfriend fell in love with the Hare Krishnas, and that was really the end of us. In fact, she ended up marrying one, then moved to North Wales, owned a shop that sold candles, and had lots of children with Indian names, just near Vajraloka. I ended up going to Israel. I just wanted to get away. I went there because I was interested in communal living and because kibbutz life was the thing to experience back then. Zionism wasn't a word in my vocabulary back then, but I embraced the whole myth of living together, living in community, and living off the land completely. After a bit, I took up with a Jewish girl from Pittsburgh. We saw Nazareth, the Sea of Galilee, and the place of the crucifixion. We fell in love with Jerusalem. And then I think back, I remember the intensity and the excitement that I felt. Celia, that was her name. We went everywhere together, the Golan Heights, down to the Red Sea, up Mount Masada at dawn. And when we weren't in hostels, we slept rough. We didn't even have sleeping bags, just a couple of towels from the kibbutz that we'd sewn together. We stayed a long time in the old city by David's Gate and ate greasy falafel wraps at Fat Mac's. Fat Mac was a legendary hippie hangout back then. Fat Mac was this enormous Arab guy who wore traditional Palestinian clothing with pointed leather slippers that stuck out at a 45-degree angle as he waddled about serving people and dispensing good cheer. At the time, it all seemed endlessly fascinating, wandering around the bazaar, looking at unusual bits and pieces, old jewelry, inlaid mosaic boxes, carpets, lanterns inset with colored glass, ornate hookah pipes, worry beads, trinkets, and Aladdin's cave. Maybe, but yet it all felt deeply authentic, steeped in mystery and romance. The Stations of the Cross didn't mean much to me, but the Coptic Church of the Holy Sepulchre just blew me away. "It's so cool," Celia said. But it was more, way more than just cool. It was dark and cavernous, candle-lit, and the air was richly scented with frankincense. The priests looked like they were beamed in from another world with their clear, dark eyes and glossy black beards. They lived by an unfamiliar code. The thing was that I had a hunger, and a hunger that wasn't easy to satisfy. And now, when I look back, I remember the intensity, the sense of urgency. We were all seekers of wisdom, But we didn't wear rags or robes. We wore faded denim and grew our hair long. Back in the Buddhist time, it's thought there were lots of people who were hungry in that same sort of way. Sometimes they were householders, sometimes royalty, but they were all shopping around, shopping for wisdom. The Buddha met many people like this. He also met people who'd achieved quite a bit by following other teachers or those who had themselves become teachers. There was Makali of the cattle pen and Kachiana of the pakuda tree. And of course, there was Ajita of the hairy blanket and the bamboo-staffed ascetic, Gusala. They really had a thing going for them, didn't they? I think we could take a leaf out of their book. I mean, we could have Mahaprasara of the quilted backpack, Vimla Dasa of the red check shirt. And what about Sangha of the exquisite but sometimes difficult to follow harmonies? Anyway, that was Makali of the cattle pen, Kachiana of the pakuda tree. Have you ever seen a pakuda tree? I have one in my imagination. Ajita of the hairy blanket, made out of human hair, by the way, and the bamboo-staffed ascetic Gosala. There were those who worshipped fire and those who practiced austerities. There were nihilists and eternalists. And then there was Bahia. Bahia of the bark garment, as he was known. Yes, I know that description makes him sound a bit like some sort of hippie environmentalist in hempen clothing, a tree hugger, something like that. But it's more probably on account of the finely stitched plant fibers that he chose to wear. Maybe he was the original vegan. Either way, it was perhaps a good thing that he gave the fire worshippers a wide berth. Anyway, this man, Bahia, lived by the sea at Supapaka. That's somewhere near the modern-day city of Mumbai, with all its noise, its ceaseless activity and choking atmosphere. It would have been a very different place back then, before the cars, the blaring horns, the taxis, motorbikes, mopeds. It seems, according to most accounts, that this Bahia was an experienced practitioner, a very serious practitioner, an ethical man, a meditator, and a well-respected teacher in his own right. He built up quite a following. Bahia received praise, he received gifts, and you get the impression that he was much loved. Life was good for him, perhaps a little too good. For one evening at home, after he'd finished his own meditation and snuffed out the candles, doubt arose in his mind. Not just a little wavering of uncertainty, but doubt with a big capital D, a great doubt, you might say. Am I, he wondered, am I really an advanced practitioner, one who is awakened, or at least one who's on the path to awaking? Well, it was just then that he heard the voice. It was a gentle female voice, soft and kind. No, the voice gently said to him. Bahia peered into the gathering darkness, and a beautiful goddess began to take shape before his eyes. She had long, blue-black hair and an ornate crown inlaid with jewels. Her dress reached all the way down to the ground, and it was fringed with tiny silver bells. No, she continued, you are not an advanced practitioner. you're not awakened. And what's more, you're not even on the path to awakening. Bahia blinked into the shadows. He was quite taken aback by this, but I think he probably appreciated her honesty, the kindness in her voice, because he was quick to reply. Well, if I'm not an advanced practitioner, who is? And how can I discover the true path to awakening? Go to Savatthi, the goddess replied, and there you'll find Gautama Buddha. He is the Tathagata, the self-awakened one, and he teaches the Dharma, the true path to awakening. Now, Bahia had a hunger that wasn't easy to satisfy. He felt a sense of urgency, a sense that time was running out on him. And so he set off straight away. Now, Savatthi, it's over 1,000 miles away on the other side of India, hard traveling with no trains or cheap flights at his disposal. But it's said that Bahia the garment took just one single night to reach his destination. Perhaps he was helped by the goddess with the tiny silver bells who had appeared to him. Once he'd arrived in Savatthi, he quickly found where the Buddha was staying, in Jetta's Grove, just outside the town. And when he got there, he saw hundreds of the Buddha's followers, and they were doing their walking meditation outside, silently and mindfully. It must have been quite a sight. But then there was no sign of their teacher at all. Where on earth was he? And when Bahia asked, he was told that the Buddha was on his arms round, begging for food in Savatthi. Well, rather than wait, Bahia hurried off straight away. It took him no time at all to find the Buddha. Bahia was eager, and when he caught up with the famous teacher, he recognized him instantly. The Buddha walked in great peace. He was mindful. He was upright. He was composed, and his face was so welcoming. He looked directly at you with complete acceptance and with kindness in his eyes. Straight away, Bahia threw himself down at his feet. That was all he could do. I am Bahia. Teach me the Dharma, Blessed One. Teach me the Dharma and the way to liberation. This isn't the right time, dear Bahia. You see, we've only just started our arms round, the Buddha replied. But Bahia wouldn't budge. We can't know what dangers await, Blessed One, or indeed what dangers await me. Teach me now, he begged. You can imagine him grabbing onto the Buddha's feet. Buddha couldn't move, like kids do. This isn't the right time, Bahia. Can't you see? We've only just started our arms round, the Buddha explained once again. But Bahia just wouldn't give up, and he asked for a third time. Look, it's true. We can't know what dangers await. We can't know what dangers await the Blessed One, or even the dangers that await me. What lurks around the corner? Teach me the Dharma and the way to liberation. And then the Buddha, who always responded on the third asking, looked directly at Bahia with his kindly eyes. Just train yourself in the following principles. Bahia, he began. In the scene, only the seen. In the herd, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. And in thought, only thought. There is no you to connect with that, no you here, there, or anywhere at all. Just practicing in this way, this is the end of suffering. And really, that brief teaching was sufficient for Bahia of the bark garment. His hunger was satisfied. Everything fell away right then and there. All delusion and negativity, all greed and self-centeredness evaporated. Everything fell away for Bahia, and great wisdom and compassion arose in him. But a little later on, in fact, it was still the same day, there was some sort of commotion in the village where Bahia was staying. A cow broke loose and charged through the place in pursuit of her calf. And Bahia was caught unawares in the middle of the road. He was knocked to the ground by the cow, badly injured, trampled, crushed beneath it, and died almost immediately. Really? What a sad end for the blessed Bahia of the bark garment, that eager practitioner who had practiced so diligently for so many years. Bahia, who traveled 1,000 miles right across India to meet his teacher, the Tathagata. And when the Buddha heard about Bahia's death, he was so sad that he was moved to tears. And after a while, he said to his followers, "Fetch Bahia's body, cremate it, and build a stupa for him. Bahia, your companion in the holy life, has died." And after his followers had done as the Buddha asked, they came to him and they said, "What of Bahia of the bark garment? What is his future state?" And the Buddha replied, saying, "Bahia was a wise man. He practiced the true Dharma, and he never pestered me with small questions and disputes. Bahia of the bark garment is now completely free. Now completely free. Well, that must surely be a path to follow and a teaching to treasure." Well, I think that Bahia was drawn to the Buddha, perhaps in ways that he couldn't fully explain. Despite his old age, he was prepared to cross India to meet the Tathagata. He asked 3 times for a teaching, and on the 3rd time, the Buddha explained a way to liberation through direct experience. That simple message, received in the powerful presence of the enlightenment and the enlightened one, was all he needed. It was all he needed at that time. But then, of course, it built on a lifetime of practice. Bahia had that hunger all along. Perhaps the Buddha's invitation to Bahia was to fall back on raw, unverbalized life, as William James once said, to dwell with the breath of the morning and the song of birds. to remain open to the experience of life in all its mysterious beauty, to simply be present. Okay, so that may all seem a long, long way away from London in the 1970s. But I relate to this story because I get the sense that Bahia was drawn to something that he didn't quite fully understand. And that was how I felt as a young man. It was how I felt when I asked to become a mitra. I hadn't the faintest idea what that meant. Somebody said it meant friend, but I didn't really get that. And how it was when I asked to be ordained and when I got ordained much later in life. And it's how I still feel now. I'll probably never get as far as Bahia did before he met the Buddha. And of course, a direct encounter with an enlightened being is highly unlikely for me. But it's a direction of travel, and there's a practice to engage with what could be described as dwelling in mindfulness, along, of course, with the cultivation of love and receptivity. So you might be thinking, what about Bahia's untimely death? Well, as he said himself, we can't see what lies ahead. We can't see what lurks around the corner, what dangers await, can we? But we can be clearly aware of impermanence, the precious opportunity that this life presents. That's what impelled Bahia. And I really do think that we can learn from that. But in the end, though, there's no escape from death, from conditionality. And in the story that we've just heard, it's all that and the unpredictability of that that leads to Bahia's death. But after all, let's not forget, he had a hunger for liberation, not a hunger for immortality. And still, the words of the Buddha live on. Somehow or another, they've come down to us across all those centuries, as time and time again, we're reminded that in our direct experience, in the seen, there's only the seen, in the heard, only the heard, in the sensed, only the sensed, and in thought, only thought. There's no you to connect with that, no you here, there, or anywhere at all. Just practicing this is the end of suffering. One final time. In the seen, there's only the seen. In the heard, only the heard. In the sensed, only the sensed. And in thought, only thought. There's no you to connect with that, no you here, there, or anywhere at all. Just practicing this is the end of suffering. And that's the end of my personal story and account of Bahia of the Bark Garment. And you might now know why I wasn't going to get dressed up in that costume, whatever that might look like. But maybe that's a project for somebody. Remember when we used to do projects in Mitra study? No, I don't think anybody ever knocked up a bark garment, but there you go. Or for that matter, a hairy blanket. Yeah, so it's quite straightforward, isn't it? What we're being invited to do is a very simple practice of mindfulness. And that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to lead you through not a mindfulness of breathing, which is a basic practice that we all learn, but a mindfulness of the senses. Same thing, different object of concentration. So a few minutes now, 2 or 3 minutes for you to get yourself comfortable, get any additional gear that you might require, blankets and cushions and that sort of thing, and I'm going to move in that direction. Thank you. I hope you didn't hear that kiss. So it was a bit sloppy. I'm going to talk a little bit more than some of you might be used to as I lead you through this practice. There's nothing you need to remember. You just need to be completely present to your experience as you can be. That means not the idea of your experience, but what's actually going on for you. So I'll set us up with a short body awareness to help you to settle down. You can follow this if you find it helpful, or if you've got your own, excuse me, or if you've got your own way of settling, that's perfectly fine too. So mindfulness practice inspired by the Buddha's teaching to Bahia. So we're just going to try and be as open and relaxed as possible, as comfortable as we can be. And come into the experience of the body. So you might like to imagine there's a glowing golden light resting on the crown of your head. And that golden light is going to slowly move its way down through the center of your body. And whatever it touches, it allows the possibility of softening, releasing, and relaxing. So first of all, it sinks through the top of the skull, extending to all those small muscles, the top of the head, and then behind the forehead, softening and relaxing. Down behind the eye sockets, behind the nasal passages, the back of the throat, and right down the inside of the throat, just softening, melting, and relaxing. And then into the top of the shoulders, opening around the collarbone on each side, up and down the arms, noticing the tingling in the fingertips, and a sort of letting go around the top of the arms, and moving down the inside of the chest cavity, behind the solar plexus, the upper belly, behind the navel, and then down into the lower belly. Just allowing everything to sink down, sinking down through the pelvic floor, as if you're sinking beneath the level of the cushion, stool or chair that you're sitting in. And all the weight of your legs melting down, softening and relaxing. So the whole body feels heavy and still, relaxed but alert. And now just inviting the attention to focus around what's heard, the sound of my voice, the sounds in this room, and any sounds that are coming from outside. And just noticing how there's nothing that needs to be done. Those sounds arise, they stay for a short while, and then they pass. Making the way for fresh sounds that appear in just the same way. And actually, there's no need even to label the sounds. You could try to just let them arise and let them pass. And when you're ready, you can try the same thing with the visual sense. So if you've got your eyes closed, that's fine. But perhaps it's not just black. Maybe you can be aware of some movement and color, even if the eyes are closed. And if you'd like to experiment with something a little bit different, you could try opening your eyes just very, very slightly, just so that some light comes in. And here perhaps you're just aware of colors and outlines. Again, there's no need to do anything. You can just be receptive in the scene, only the scene. Again, there's nothing, no need to label. Nothing to think about. Just the direct experience of seeing. And now coming to the experience of touch or contact. So noticing now what the body feels. And then perhaps how those experiences, perhaps of the contact through the hands or the feet, takes on different shapes and moves in your direct experience. In fact, your whole body can be like a patchwork of different sensations. Coming and going. And now opening out a little bit and just being aware of the play of all the different senses. So there's what's arising and passing in the visual sense. What's arising and passing in your hearing. Perhaps a little harder, but there's the sense of smell. The taste in one's mouth. And the sense of touch. Each one of them coming and going of their own accord. And then, of course, the final arena is thought. Just ideas, images, emotions. Just arising. And see if you can allow them to just simply pass through, just like the other senses. There's no need to identify with them. No need to lean into them, and no need to push them away. Just let them arise and pass. So in the scene, there is only the scene. In the herd, only the herd. In the sensed, only the sensed. And in thought, only thought. There's no you to connect with that. No you here, there, or anywhere at all. Just practicing this. This is the end of suffering. Well, we've got 10 minutes and we could have a bit of Q&A, but we're a huge group How will that work? Maybe if you paired up for 3 or 4 minutes, but listened out for the bell to draw you back. That might generate a few questions or observations, comments on the whole scope of the evening so far. We'll do that. We've just come out of meditation and there are a lot of you, so it would be good to try and keep that reasonably quiet. That's going to be tricky, I know, but let's have a go at that. So let's have just 5 minutes of sharing with somebody close to you. Yeah. Whispering. Okay, so maybe that's helped generate a few questions. I know we won't be able to do a sort of full check-in about how you feel, but maybe some people have got some urgent things on their mind and don't mind talking in front of large groups of people. With those provisos, yeah, anybody got anything to offer? Observation, question? Apparently you just have to sit it out and sooner or later somebody comes up with something, Tom. It's not a plant. Yeah.
I'm interested in focus of attention
Mm.
and the tension between allowing it to go where it goes and also directing it somewhere. So say I'm with feeling or hearing.
Yeah.
And what I can do with that. So for example, can I take my focus of attention to a point of rest in my awareness?
Yeah.
Or do I take it to a point of tension? Do I watch that and try and catch the experiences ceasing? Or am I better off just allowing it to sort of go where it goes? But when I do that, I catch myself labeling quite a lot. And then I get distracted. Say I'm going for vision. I might just label and then I'm in auditory stuff. And then again, I'm trying to quieten that by seeking rest. And I'm just wondering what your experience of that is.
Well, I suppose at root it depends on your intention. So how I see this practice that the Buddha gave to Bahia is an analytical practice, basically. So in our normal everyday experience, all the senses come together in a jumble, basically. And our mind's whirring away and blah, blah, blah. So this is just saying, okay, let's separate out what's happening in the visual field. And this isn't necessarily about finding a point of rest. It's what's going on in the visual field. And then as we did, we could just stay with that. But as we did in this practice, well, let's go to well, actually I did it the other way around, because the hearing one's easier to start with. So it's just trying to disentangle the different elements of experience. And you said my experience is actually that's quite restful. If I just allow myself to dwell with one of the senses, is restful in itself. Things arise, pass. So I find that's I feel like it's a byproduct. So the approach is analytical, but the byproduct is a settling, because it's a focusing. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I share something if that's okay? I was talking
Yeah.
one of the first things he said to me was like, it's really hard to put my experience into words.
Fantastic.
Trying to kind of explain to me this is what it was like.
Yeah.
And that almost came across as like a bit of an apology, but I was like, actually, that's kind of it, isn't it?
Precisely.
It is really difficult to put our experience into words, and maybe that's not the something in that that I really liked. It's like, actually, as soon as we're trying to do that, to explain this is what my experience is like,
Yeah.
it's not quite right.
Yeah, and if you were able to, in the exercise I was just leading, drop the labeling, then that's even worse, isn't it? Because there is just sound, for instance. And sometimes, I mean, there was something going on outside, but I hadn't a clue what it was, you know. I think there was somebody whistling at one point. Was there? Or was I just thinking? Yeah. So in a way, putting words to it isn't the point. In fact, that was the William James quote that came in the story. I've actually forgotten the quote now, but oh yeah, fall back on raw, unverbalized experience. Just raw experience. Lovely. Yeah. And he goes on, the breath of the morning and the song of the birds. Yeah. Can't really describe the song of birds, can you? It just is. Yeah. Kamradasa.
I think I just want to voice the experience. It's not easy.
Not easy.
And also some people might find, and I think some senses are easier
Yeah.
than others. So for me, for some reason, I close my eyes, there's lots of colours and
Yeah. Thoughts.
That's where we want to go. So
Yeah.
just want to voice that.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good.
It might be in practice that one or two senses are initially easier to work with.
Yeah. My own. I know because we've talked about this one with us, but sound is very productive for me, whereas I know you find vision a bit easier. Thought is a whole other thing, and I purposefully didn't go there because we could have a whole evening or a whole 2 weeks on thought itself. But of course, that's the one that tends to intrude and take over, clamour for our attention, and which we identify with most strongly, to use that word, most of the time. Yes.
I was also sharing, I've never done this kind of meditation before, but it was really interesting that through this form of meditation, the self, as you were saying, disappears.
Yeah.
You just see the hearing, you not the hearing.
Yeah.
It was really interesting that I've done obviously other types of meditation where I could connect to this vast infinite space and meditation of the inner and outer self. You see that this meditation is exactly the same, but just by a very different
Yeah.
There's this person here, and it does all these great things.
Yeah.
And it puts it all together.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's a route to the same experience. Yeah, quite clearly. Yeah, good. Thank you. Yeah, well, that was Q and one more Q.
One more. I was just going to ask briefly. You mentioned that this is it's along the lines of the mindfulness of breathing.
Yeah.
So would this be a practice that we could incorporate when we're doing the mindfulness of breathing?
It could be, and it could be a entry point to the mindfulness of breathing, because obviously I didn't lead it in that way, but the next thing you could pick up on was how the body responds to the incoming breath. So you could use it as a bridge into that. Yes, it's another form of mindfulness. Yeah. we teach mindfulness of breathing because the breathing's always with us and most of the time fairly easy to locate, but it's in the broad scope of mindfulness practices. Yes, but
what you're going to read after the tea break is a bit of a blog, because sort of people might decide not to stay or to go.
okay. I was going to ask the team which one to do, but I'll lead a mindfulness of breathing. And I'll lead it with a little bit more of a lead than perhaps you're used to experiencing, just as a, may give you some new ways in. Yeah, yeah. So, coming soon after the tea break. Yeah, so let's have a break and be back here at 9 o'clock.